team. That's going to be a full house today.
Morning.
Good morning, Chris.
Hello.
Well, your microphone is now working beautifully, Chris.
Hello. Good morning.
I love the good vibes in this audience this morning.
New week, new vibe.
Just to double check, any one of you got a paper to present?
For today?
Yeah. It was your turn, Evie.
Nope.
Okay.
Like thinking about it, but not yet.
The first step, thinking about presenting, is nearly presenting.
Yes.
All right, in that case, you will get my paper today. Boop, boop. Okay, the room has quieted down, so let's make a start. Welcome to Neuroccino, everyone. We meet once a week and present papers, book chapters, books, YouTube videos, anything that we thought was exciting, presented to the group and discuss why we were excited about it, and then have a discussion to the best of our knowledge. The only rule is that you don't present your own work, and that's about it. So today I'm gonna present a paper. Let me just get the link for you. Here we go, and I'm gonna put that on YouTube for people over there to ask questions, and in the chat over here. Fantastic. Right, hang on, need to shout at the dog for a second. Well, it's chewing on the carpet. Right, let me share the screen with you. Here you go. Can you see that okay? Fantastic. Right, so I came across this paper on medRxiv and got quite excited about it, but I'm happy to see that we have a couple of physicists and engineers in the room to maybe put that bit more perspective for me, also in terms of the actual methods that were used to that were used in the paper. I'm just going to make you co-host in case I drop out. Here we go. Okay, so what's the paper about and why did I get excited about it? It's basically a paper about rapid imaging using multi-contrast imaging. So different sequences acquired at a fast pace, if not simultaneously. And why do we need it? We need it because right now, quantitative MRI has quite a long scanning time, which then often leads to discomfort in patients, especially when you're scanning geriatric or developmental pediatric patients, but also in acute stroke, for example, where time is brain. We don't really have the luxury of acquiring images over a long period of time. And then obviously with that long scanning duration also comes motion artifacts. And then oftentimes to reconstruct the images or to interpret the images, people also need to be trained in specialized software. So that's why generally there is a need for rapid imaging and acquiring different contrasts simultaneously. Sorry. So there's other options like synthetic MRI, which has a reduced scanning time, but is prone to artifacts. Sorry, it's quite distracting this morning.
Schluss jetzt. Hör auf.
And in this paper, they used tailored magnetic resonance fingerprinting, which increased the scan efficacy And they tested it with rapid simultaneous multi-contrast T1 weighted, FLAIR and T2 weighted images, and also quantitative imaging T1, T2 maps. Now, scan efficacy in this case means that the number of MR contrasts and quantitative maps acquired per a given unit of time. Now, what they achieved using this approach is that they get a whole brain in 4 minutes compared to 20 to 30 minutes that we usually have, which is quite an exciting acceleration of scanning time. Now, what they did, particularly in this paper, is they used their tailored magnetic resonance fingerprinting in 4 living human data sets and in vitro phantom scanning, and compared it to the standard vendor-supplied gold standard and also other MRF sequences. The whole thing was done on a 3T GE Premier scanner, and the images were reconstructed offline in MATLAB. Now, in terms of the methods, the qualitative images were reconstructed and denoised using a deep learning algorithm and gradient anisotropic diffusion denoising, and the quantitative tissue maps were reconstructed using a dense neural network to speed up the process. And then in both types of scans, the gray and the white matter tissues were segmented semi-automatically. Now, what they found in terms of the results is that the gold standard performed better in terms of SNR, so signal to noise ratio, in order for contrasts they used. And the order was that the gold standard was better than the tailored, and the tailored was better than the normal MR fingerprinting. But the scan efficacy was the highest in the tailored magnetic resonance imaging. And again, scan efficacy is the number of MR contrasts and quantitative maps acquired per unit time. Now, tailored in this case means that they used tissue-dependent choices in their relaxation contrast and used windows to differentiate the different tissues. And that's the tailored aspect of TMRF, but I leave that up to the physicists in the room to actually explain that in more detail. There was previous solutions, obviously, who tried to tap into the same line of research in terms of speeding up. And according to the authors, there's 3 different solutions that were proposed. The first was multi-contrast methods, so acquiring different contrasts close to each other, if not at the same time. And 2 examples they give is the TC rare that acquires a proton density map, a T1 weighted and a T2 weighted image in 2 minutes. And the EPI mix that acquires 6 contrasts in 1 minute, but they were quite prone to distortions and have reduced image quality. Now, these contrasts are quite good for screening purposes. For example, if you just want to have a quick look, coming back to the stroke example, that might be a way to just disentangle a bleed from an occlusion, for example, by having a 1 or 2 minute quick scan that will answer that. But in terms of lesion delineation, you obviously want quite a high resolution image. The other type of solution that was proposed was rapid quantitative imaging. So that would, for example, be DESPOT 1, DESPOT 2, and other methods. But they don't offer weighted images. So the T1, T2 weighted are not offered as such by the scanner, but they can be computed afterwards. But again, that goes against the idea of having images in a quick time. And then synthetic MRI, where images are generated based on fingerprinting and training data rather than directly from raw data. But again, there is no T1, T2 or flare contrast, and they're prone to artifacts. So what they did here is they obviously, as I mentioned already, used machine learning, and they built a deep network where the input layer has 749 nodes. So each node is a number of the time points in the images. Then there is 4 hidden layers that all have 300 nodes each. And then the output layer, the classification, has 2 nodes, which is the T1, T2 differentiation. Now, to give you an idea about the image quality, let's go to the very back of the paper. Where we have the figures. So here you have the framework of how it's actually implemented, including the segmentation at the end that I mentioned. Then for the physicists amongst you, this is probably quite a nice figure. And then here we have the images, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger so we can see it better. So GS is the vendor supplied gold standard. MRF is the normal fingerprinting, and then we have the tailored fingerprinting. And these are the types of images that you can get from a 2-minute scan. Now, why was I excited about this? Not so much for the method, because I have to admit that is slightly out of my depth in terms of how they actually did it, and why one method is slightly better than the other. But in terms of clinical imaging, as I said, time is brain oftentimes, and getting the information that you need in a very fast acquisition is extremely advantageous. And I think the authors actually missed that point slightly, because in their conclusion, they say this is good for tumor and what was the other? Sorry. Tumor and MS scanning, but I think given the time that it takes to scan, especially stroke would be a target for rapid scanning. And as we said in the beginning, also geriatric and pediatric patients. And that's all I can tell you about the paper for now. Happy to discuss it. Any questions? Chris.
Really cool. I mean, it's not my specialty, but one small question: what is the difference between difference in terms of time, like for the exact same acquisition with the normal method and this one? What is the range? I don't know if I heard. Maybe I missed it at the beginning. And the other thing is it can it be applied to other because yeah, I see T1, T2. So if there is a T2, can it be applied to DWI and maybe to functional MRI? I don't know.
Yes. So to answer the first question, it's usually 20-30 minutes to acquire these scans on a normal scanner in the normal way. And they brought it down to 2 minutes. So that's quite,
that's a big
an achievement. In terms of extending it, I'm just trying to find it. Here we go. So future implementations can incorporate other contrasts such as DWI and T2 flares. So nice. Yes, it can definitely be expanded.
Cool.
Victor.
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. I won't say that I got everything, because it's quite a big paper with a lot of little details. It's just that what I could see when I was looking at the figure with the different brains, where I think it's figure 4, with the different zoom in on the T1 weighted images, depending on the, this one, depending on the type of technique. qualitatively, I would say that they say that they have better SNR in their method, which is on the bottom, than in the normal method that is in the middle. But although I think, you can see that it is a bit noisy in the middle image, on the zoomed image. I think there is still more information here than in their blurry, smooth image. So I think it's good to have like, I'm not against denoising algorithm, like deep learning denoising algorithms or anything, but I'm still wondering if we are at a point where we can just blindly, well, they didn't deal with it blindly, but just applying them all the time. And I would really like to see the same thing that they did, unless the tailored part is necessary. You need the deep learning for the tailored part. I didn't quite get it, but to see with a bit less smoothing their results, with a bit less smoothing, to see if you get some result that looks like a little bit sharper. I don't know. It's just what I could see quickly.
Well spotted, and you're right. Actually, the results were that the SNR was best in the gold standard, which is the image on top.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the middle one.
Yeah, and then they said it was better in the tailored compared to the normal one.
Yeah,
best is still the gold standard that comes.
I mean, that's for sure. I was wondering, well, the middle one, it's still theirs, or it's because I think you described it as normal, but I don't know. It's their method.
Non-tailored MR fingerprinting, but I don't know if it's theirs.
I mean, okay, yeah. It's good. And the tailored, okay. Well, I don't know how the SNR is measured here, because
those are the kind of details that I'm sure you can get from the paper better.
Sure, probably. I would need to read it. All right.
But yeah, so I agree with the deep learning considerations that you have, that trusting a black box at this point to give us all the answers.
I'm fine with trusting a black box. If the black box does way better than everything that a normal algorithm would do in terms of denoising, it's fine. It's just, yeah, it's good to have a human at some point look and say, yeah, well, the metrics that we are used to use is not actually well suited for this for seeing if the denoising done by learning works. Actually, now that I say that, I think it's even more problematic, because if you use the metrics as the value that the deep learning algorithm tries to minimize, you maximize the signal on noise ratio, for example, as measured by these metrics, it will maximize these metrics, but that does not mean that it will reflect a better result in the end, because if the metric is just that, usually it's higher on better images, but in this specific case, you maximize this measure, but the algorithm finds a way to maximize it without actually making the image much better. It can be a bias, but that's just like deep learning stuff that you have to be careful about. And I don't know how they did it here. So it's just like, I'm just saying like this.
Another thing that should be considered is that this is a proof of principle, and they're used for brains.
Okay.
But this is by no means a big scale.
But that's still very very exciting in terms of what they can do. Yeah.
That's why I brought it to you. Right. Anna has a question as well.
Hello, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for presenting. Yeah, I was wondering what exactly is the tailoring based on? Like, is it, and how long it takes? So you said that they might have missed the point at their conclusion about not mentioning the clinical application, in a sense that like the scanning takes so short. Maybe it's because the like pre-step of selecting the yeah, selecting the things that you base the tailoring on, that takes long. So I was wondering.
So yeah, good question. They didn't actually miss the point about the clinical application, but they highlighted tumor and MS imaging. Whereas I thought, given the fast acquisition time that they have, stroke would also be an obvious clinical application for rapid imaging in multi-contrast settings. So they didn't miss it, but to me, and obviously I have the slide bias, I was missing stroke in that list of clinical applications. And then
sorry, yeah, continue, sorry.
The second question about what the tailored actually means. So as I said, they used tailored design for the tissue, different tissue methods, using the relaxation parameters in the image. So they used the inversion poles to suppress short and long relaxation components like fat and liquids. And that was done at different temporal time points. And then what they applied was a sliding window approach to detect a signal constancy in a given contrast window they had. And then they used the 749 time points to tailor the evolution of the magnetization properties for the 4 types of tissue: the white matter, the gray matter, CSF, and fat. But that's as far as my understanding of the methods goes in terms of tailoring it.
Okay, thank you. I think, yeah, it's clearer now. It's at least, yeah, so it's tailored to the tissue and not like to anything else. Okay, that was, yeah, my question.
Tissue properties across time points.
Awesome, thanks.
Welcome. Nish?
Hi, sorry I arrived late. I'm puzzled in the way that I can see that there might be some redundancy in the signals that we acquire with these different sequences, and there's possibility for optimization. But I wonder how much this algorithm is generative of information it learns from, other data that, it's a bit of deep learning in there. And so we have a saying in French that nothing is lost and nothing is created. And if the algorithm is creating information in there to give like this high resolution, I wonder whether it would be possible. Sorry, it's just Monday morning. I wonder whether it would be possible to have a null hypothesis, or check how it would be if you just enter noise into there. What does the algorithm do? And if you enter noise and you obtain a brain as an output, it is really worrisome in some way. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think those steps, and I see how powerful those algorithms can be, but it is not magic. So I think like moving forward, we really need to have more null hypotheses when we want to push forward those kind of approaches. I don't know. It's just
you're absolutely right. One of the things that was missing in this paper was the availability of the algorithm. So there is no code availability or data availability statement in the manuscript at the moment. So those things can't easily be tested, I guess, for other groups, but it's a preprint, so it might, there's a storm here, so the dog is a bit crazy this morning. Yeah, so it's a preprint. These things might still come and be checked in the future.
Fair enough. Thank you. It's very interesting.
That's all the questions I can see at the moment. So thanks for indulging me on this paper this morning. I also want to highlight to you that this Thursday at 4 p.m. Paris time / Amsterdam time, we're going to have a CNS talk by Dagmar Timmann on the cerebellum and its involvement in motor and emotional learning. Again, as always, feel free to join us live on Zoom or on YouTube, and you can ask your questions over there as well. Bye, Mish. Thanks for joining us. Have an exciting week in science, and whoever wants to present next week, just let me know and come and join us for some exciting science. Have a great week. Bye.